Hi, welcome back to the FreeFormKnits YouTube channel. I'm Haxann Evers, a knit and crochet with 50 ways of crafting love to the world of design. All the places you can find me are listed right down below this video. This is my channel where I talk about knitting, crochet, all that fun crafty stuff, so if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. It's been quite a while since I last podcasted. I'm actually at the end of my first full semester of college courses. I took up 5 classes this semester and I only have 2 finals left. So as the final dates got closer, I just kind of dropped a lot of things. I even put off a pattern release that I really want to get out there, my Delightful Knit sock collection update. I just kind of dropped everything in order to focus on the finals. But those are now almost over. I think by the time you're seeing this, my last final is on Tuesday, so I'm really excited to just be done with the semester and kind of have a little bit of a break before the next semester starts. But I have quite a bit of knitting and crochet to talk with you about today. Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of finished objects. Even for the longest time, my desire to make things was just not quite all there because of school. But just kind of as school work ended and we just got to the finals, the in-between period where it feels like you should be studying all the time but you can't physically study all the time, I just been doing a lot of making, so we're going to talk all about that right now. So before I get into everything, I just do want to mention if you've been watching the podcast for a while, then you know that this location is a little bit different. So I did recently kind of rearrange my crafting stuff. So we're actually in this little closet alcove thing that's right next to our bedroom. So the lighting in here is not great, but it is a rainy day right now. It is a cold December rainy day. We've had a very wet December where I am. I live in the state of Pennsylvania, and we haven't gotten a lot of snow yet. Actually, no snow. Frost, but no snow. And it's been very wet, warm kind of December, which isn't a fun December, but it's very dreary out today. So this is the best lighting we're gonna get. But I'm surrounded by my yarn. So if you actually follow me on Instagram, then you might have seen a little bit of snippets of my new crafting setup, which I'm really enjoying. It's very nice to have this little section, all to my yarny stuff. So I think we're going to start talking about knitting. Yes, it's so great. So first I should mention, actually right here next to me on this couch is my Knit and Crochet blanket. I shared this a while ago. This was a finished object this year, and it just kind of sits on this couch, and it gets pretty cold in the house, so it's always available for a lap blanket, And I am wearing some knitting stuff too. This is a sweater I made I think 2 or 3 years ago now, just a freeform circular yoke, and we're actually going to be talking quite a bit about circular yokes in this episode because it's some good things about circular yokes. I actually used the numbers from the Ann Bud something, 4 Ways to Make a Sweater. I've talked about that book so many times on the podcast because I love that book. Great if you're looking to understand sweater construction. Another little disclaimer, I live in a pretty small house with a lot of people. My brother's actually home from his grad school to celebrate Christmas, so we are a lot of people in a small space. We got 2 little dogs who love to bark, so there are background noises. I do my best to edit all of that out, but I do apologize if sometimes they just know right when I'm saying something to bark. Yeah. So there's that. And yes, this sweater. It just has this nice garter texture on it, which makes to make a sweater fly, just do a little garter blip every now and again. It really makes it go really fast. So that is what I'm wearing. I'm also wearing this necklace that I've had for so many years. My mom got it off of Etsy a very long time ago. It's like a little yarn ball with needles in it and a pair of scissors. So I love that. So this is what I'm wearing, Okay. Now we're going to talk about finished objects. I honestly cannot believe how many finished objects I have. Finished objects. This is the finished objects episode. Okay, so first, I think these were a work in progress last time. This is a pair of socks. Here they are, just a simple vanilla pair of socks, but I used some scraps. So these 2 minis are Yarn Bee minis, and this is a Knit Pick Stroll tonal mini, and this is a Knit Pick Stroll, actually not a mini, it's just leftovers, Knit Pick Stroll. So this was the Thunderhead colorway. I used for the cuffs and the foot and heel, and then this is Manatee, I think. So this pair of socks is done. I just did very simple 20 rounds for each color on the leg, and then finished with the foot. So this is actually going to be a Christmas gift this year. And just used my shortcut heel sock recipe, cuffed down with my shortcut heel in stockinette. So that is a finished object. I was really happy to have these done, and they were really just a nice quick knit. I've been recently loving again just my standard toe. I usually use my hat trick toe, but for some reason as I've gotten, like, I've started sock knitting again, I've just been loving the simplicity of doing a standard toe, especially when you do a contrast like this. I just think it looks so good. So that pair of socks is done, and it just felt really nice to get like a very simple pair of socks, but like have some like just color stripes, just stripes. It's so cool. That is one finished object, and then I have another pair of socks that is finished. So these are my kick strip socks, and this is the third sock pattern in my garter stitch sock collection. And due to the lighting, we're not going to get good pictures of this sock. So my garter stitch sock collection is a collection of sock patterns that feature simple garter stitch motifs. So just knit pearls, very simple, very potato chippy, like a step above vanilla is what I would call it. So you have something nice and easy to work on, but it's not just a vanilla sock, because sometimes you need a little bit more than a vanilla sock. And I recently finished my tripping hazard socks, which are over in the basket over there, and I showed them last time. So the kick strip socks feature just these simple like garter triangles, and it's super fun. Got my garter stitch heel and my shortcut garter stitch heel and my hat trick toe. So I really love, this is Knit Pictorial Tonal in the Heartfelt Tonal colorway. So many shadows, but it's just this, like, the purest red you can think of is what I call this color. It is so nice. And 2x2 ribbing, very simple. Yes, I love this sock pattern so much. I actually get the garter stitch sock collection. This is a three sock patterns that are in my Ravelry shop right now. If you purchase them all together, you get a bit of a discount. They're all available for individual purchase, but you do get a little bit of a discount if you purchase the collection, all three patterns together. There was actually I feel so bad about this. There was actually a small problem with the listing. I don't know when it occurred, because it's been out for a while. Like I must have when I was making the sample and looking at the PDFs, I must have switched pictures around or something. I don't know, it was so weird. And a viewer very nicely reached out to me and like asked me about it, which brought my attention back to it. So there was a problem with the listing. It is not a problem anymore. Me and technology do not mix. Even with something like Ravelry, I don't even know how to, full confession, I don't even know how to use Ravelry to its fullest extent, which is why I don't make project pages, because I'm just not good with technology. But all that to say, you can purchase this on Ravelry if you're interested in very simple step above vanilla socks. They come with charts, written instructions, everything to make just these very simple patterns, and they just work up so quickly and so enjoyable. So yeah, it's all Ravelry Shop, just linked below with everything correctly. It works now, so yeah, go me. But just some of the stress that added to, you know, with finals and things, why I kind of rolled to go back. Okay, so those are two sock finished objects, and now we move on to, can you believe it, sweater finished objects. I have finished sweaters, not one sweater, two sweaters. So for the longest time, I was not making sweaters. Kind of, I don't know what it is exactly, why I stopped making sweaters. I was starting sweaters and not finishing them, didn't feel motivated to work on them. But that all changed when I decided that, you know what, I'm just going to start one and I'm going to finish it. I'm going to see it through because I want a nice sweater. I want a new sweater. So I had for quite a while, I was sitting on this pattern that I had in my library. It is the Cozy Sunday Sweater by Twin Stitches Designs. And I had actually started the sweater in worsted weight. It's written for a DK weight. And I was going to modify it and do all these modifications, but I started it and didn't finish it, so I had no idea where I was and what modifications I had made, what my gauge was, all these different things, and it was just so overwhelming. So I just ripped it out and started it in DK weight and just followed the pattern. So I started it and finished it, and here it is. it's not blocked, it's just been sitting in a pile waiting to show you. So I did make a few modifications to it. So one modification I didn't make, which I never not make when making sweaters, is I did not play with the neckline. So typically I like necklines to be very wide, like what I'm wearing now. Like even this, I followed the recipe like I mentioned in that book. But when I make circular yoke sweaters, what I typically do to ensure that my neckline is not tight is I just cast on for the first increase round. So if the pattern tells you to cast on this number of stitches for the collar, and then you're going to do your first increase round, I just cast on the stitch count for the first increase round. I don't do the collar. And then if I need a collar, I will pick up in a smaller needle size and do a bit of ribbing, because that will make a wider neckline than just following the pattern, because me and tight necklines don't mix. I am very picky about where like fabric touches my neck. I just don't like anything tight like that. So I did not do that in this sweater, partly because I was getting back into sweater knitting and I didn't want to like start a sweater and make a modification that was going to ruin it again. Because this is color work, so I didn't want to like it wouldn't have been a big deal because there is like quite a bit of gap here, but I just decided to just follow the pattern. And also because I did notice in some of the sweaters I was making that I was doing too much. Like this neckline is perfect, if I may say so myself. Like I love this neckline, but in some of the sweaters I've made more recently, I've made them too wide and they're like falling off my shoulders, and I just didn't want to deal with that. So I have tried this on, and the neckline is closer than I typically wear. I'm gonna give it a few wears to see if I like it, because I do like the look of how, like, when the neckline is just right. Like it can't be here on me, but if it's like here, that's okay. And I like that look, but it's very hard to play that game. It always seems to me, I always get it either too tight or too loose, and I need to find that middle space. So that is why I followed the pattern exactly for that hack. Not for that hack, I just followed the pattern exactly. It's not a hack, I didn't hack it. So I'm gonna give it a few wears, and worst case scenario, I just cut off the collar and take it back a little bit. It's not a big deal to do that for a top-down sweater. So then the other modification I made, I did change, I messed up this chart because it's a 3-color colorwork yoke. I only used 2 colors because I messed up the chart and just decided it wasn't a big deal. I only had a gray to go with this, and I kind of like it just the 2 colors. And then I did change this last chart because I was worried about yoke depth, and because I had eliminated one color, so I wasn't sure how to make the chart match this exactly. So it ended up just being this like little blip of color, which I kind of like, honestly. Something interesting about this pattern is that she had a lot of stitches to cast on for the underarm. Like if you look at the pattern picture of her sample, like what drew me to this sweater is that her sleeves were pretty tight, and like her yoke looked pretty tight. Not tight like in a bad way, but just like a good fitting yoke. And typically sometimes like top-down sweaters, they can be a little bit baggy, which is also another modification I'm constantly making to my sweaters. Like this sweater fits me. This is how I like my sweaters to fit, and this is what this looked like for me. But to get this fit for me, I typically have to modify it heavily, like because of just yoke depth and my arm circumference. So to get this shape, she had you cast on quite a lot of stitches on the underarm, which I did follow her instructions, but it did lead. I am the worst at picking up stitches, okay? So I like this is after fixing it. It doesn't look that bad, but it is a bulky seam, and it looked horrendous when I first picked up my stitches because I did the backward loop cast on for my underarm, but with so many stitches, it just looked awful. Like I fixed it a little bit, and you won't see it, it's under my underarm, but it looked horrendous when I first did it. So that was just very interesting to me, just because I typically, again, with my underarm circumference, I end up casting on stitches under my underarm a lot to make up for the fact that I'm not going to make the yoke as deep as the pattern calls for. So it's just interesting to me how this was done, and it inspired me to get my act together and figure out a better way to do stitches on the underarm, because this is absolutely horrible. I have a great idea for how to do it in the future, picking up stitches to look seamless, hopefully, if it works out as it is planning in my head. But yeah, so that was just funny to me. So I modified that. I modified the yoke in that way with the rounds to make it shorter. And then my gauge was actually really off for this pattern. So I think it's a DK weight pattern. She says she calls it DK weight yarn, but maybe our gauges are just completely different, because I would have had to gone up so many needle sizes to get her gauge, and with color work it just in DK weight yarn I would have had to gone up at least 9, possibly 10 to get her stitch count, and with color work and that lucid gauge would not have mixed. So I just modified. I think I ended up doing the same size I would have, it just ended up being a little bit tighter because my gauge was off. I don't know if it was my gauge was off a lot or if it's just my gauge wouldn't change a lot. Like my gauge was only off a little bit, but no matter how many needle sizes I changed, it would not change. I don't know. So that was kind of a thing to figure out, but it all worked out in the end because I got this nice sweater. I also didn't do the color work she called for at the cuffs. She had very interesting sleeve decreases for, I think because it was such a tight sleeve to begin with. You just knit straight for a long time and then you do a little bit of shaping, then you knit straight again, and then I added some rapid decreasing for the cuff just because I need to have a tight cuff so that I can push my sleeves back just in case I need to do anything that might get my sleeves wet or in the way. So that is my cozy Sunday sweater. I believe that's what it's called. I keep going into the word morning in there because I think there's a cozy morning Sunday sweater and I keep mixing them up, but the right name will be on this, maybe on the screen, and definitely I will link the pattern in the description box, so that will be the right name. I think I'm saying it right. But the yarn I used is Yarn Bee Soft and Sleek DK. I don't know the colorways. I know the pink, this light pink, is Ballet Slipper. I don't know what this one is, but it's very pretty. And now that I've shown it, I can wear it because I didn't want to wear it and get it dirty and then not have it to show you when I got the chance to podcast. Oh, actually, a funny story about the bind off on the hem. So I love the sewn bind off. I find it's just a really great, I will definitely get it a stretchy but not loose and not tight bind off with the sewn bind off. But the problem with the sewn bind off is you have to make sure you add the right amount of yarn. And I started the sewn bind off for my hem, realized it was going to take forever and a day, tried to go back all the way. I couldn't do it. It was so annoying. So I just started binding off, but I had already cut the yarn for the sewn bind off. So I ran out of yarn in the bind off, had to add it again. It was the whole thing. Not very happy about it, but it is bound off, and it flares because if I don't even know when this problem occurred, because when I first started knitting and learned how to bind off, my bind offs were pretty even. They were fine. I don't know when it got to the point where my bind offs are so tight, just the standard bind off, but the stretchy bind offs tend to be too loose, and so I try and do my bind offs with a bigger needle size, and I always end up using too big of a needle size, so the bind off flares. It's a problem in the works, but that's the bind off. It's fine. It's done. I'm very happy that I have a finished sweater. So that is the sweater. I knitted on a 7, US 7, which is a 4.5, I believe. So a finished sweater. Yay me. So happy about that. And that's not the only finished sweater. Oh no. I finished that sweater. Felt so inspired to make another sweater. And not only another sweater, I have been trying for so long to understand circular yoke construction. I understand raglan construction really well. I can plot out the numbers for a raglan for me really simply because I know how to do it. I know how to get the look I want, the circumference I want, all of that. Circular yokes are taking me a little bit longer. I don't know what it is. I think I've just never really committed to learning it. It's been in these bursts of I have to understand. So I've understood it in pieces, and I actually a while ago started a circular yoke sweater completely from scratch that I ended up frogging because I had made a bit of a mistake. But while I was working on that sweater and following the pattern, it just all kind of clicked into place, and now I'm obsessed with as crazy as it sounds, obsessed with doing the math for circular yokes because I love how it works out. Math is actually the final I have on Tuesday, and I can do the math for knitting. Can't do the math in real life. Not that I'm not bad at math. I'm not in love with math. especially when it's taught in a way that, which drives me crazy about math in general, is when a concept in math is taught in such a way that it's so overwhelming, but then when you finally understand it, you just look at what originally overwhelmed you and you're like, there's got to be an easier way to explain this. And that's just kind of how I approach math. I need like this layered approach of this is one step, this is two step, and then it all just kind of comes together, and I'm so excited about it. But all that to say is I was obsessed with circular yokes, and I wanted to start another project, another sweater, specifically a circular yoke, but I decided I needed to do something first, and that was finish this sweater. So I started this is a harvest garden by Tin Can Knits. I started this many moons ago. And I made quite a few modifications to it. And I don't think I talked about it for the longest time, because for the longest time it was sitting literally half finished in a project bag. So the reason it was half finished is because I had knit the sleeves first. Now you might be thinking, well, that's great, knit the sleeves first. I thought that too. Knitting a flat cardigan that has 2 long sleeves, knitting a whole body of it, it's hard because you have these sleeves flapping around in your lap that just get in your way. It's so annoying, and it's heavy on your wrists, and I for the longest time I could not even work on it. I think I was maybe here. I was literally just separated, maybe like an inch away from the underarms. All I had to do was the body, and it took me the longest time to even start carrying it around the house with me for a moment to work on, longest time to even drag it out and work on a row or two. And then finally one day I decided I'm not starting a new sweater until I finish this, and then it took me 2 nights. So I'm my own worst enemy. Anyway, this is the Harvest Garden by Tin Can Knits. I hacked it to have this ribbing instead of the garter band, and I did the sleeves just straight with a quick decrease 2x2 rib on the cuff. It's not as long as I originally wanted it because I totally copped out on the ribbing on the hem. Originally my idea was to do it very long, but I changed my mind because I just needed this to be done. So I will put it on, even though it will kind of look a little bit ridiculous with the sweater I already have on. I have mixed feelings about it. In some of my modifications, my planning did not go according to plan. So I eliminated the extra increases that the Harvest Garden calls for to do like the v-neck. I ended up with the same stitch count because of the hack I did to get this ribbing collar, but I probably shouldn't have done that, just so that I would have a little bit more fabric, because the ribbing kind of wants to make it draw back all the way. It's not bad. I don't know how much wear I'll get out of it, honestly. It's pretty long too. It's a good length. Worst case scenario, it goes to one of my sisters, or I don't know, but it's pretty nice. It's very warm, worsted weight, yarn bee. I don't remember the colorway name, but I think I have a lot left over of this yarn. I'm trying to find it on my stash, but I seem to be using less sweater yarn than I think I need, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so that's that finished object. I knit this on a 9 or 10, might be a 10. So it went quick if I would just work on it, but yeah, I'm never gonna knit the sleeves first again on ever a cardigan, possibly ever a sweater. Because in theory, it's a great idea. Knit the sleeves first, make the body as long as you want. But in reality, you don't want to pick up a whole sweater with 2 sleeves flopping around. It just makes it so hard to work on. It's, yeah, never again. So that's this sweater, and it's done. I'm very happy about that. So that is 4 whole finished objects. I'm pretty happy about this. This is cool. This is good. So I also have, technically I have 2 more finished objects. One is very small and it's not sewn together, so I'm not going to show it because you won't be able to make sense of it. The other one is a amigurumi toy that just needs legs and a face. So technically it's done, but not really. So I kind of have this little bit of a tradition where I make plushies for some of my siblings during Christmas. And I say some, I'm not like picking one over the other, just whatever, like I think they'll like enjoy this plushie. So a new Pokemon game came out, and my littlest sister loves Pokemon, and I also love Pokemon, but I'm kind of behind on the times. I don't know all the new Pokemon, so I don't know this guy's name. I think it starts with an S. It's one of the new beginners, and I found this great crochet pattern that I will link below. I again love crochet amigurumi pattern makers. They are amazing because they just make this come to life. So here it is, and I think it's Spaghettico something. I don't know the name, but it took a bit of color work. I will say about this pattern, it's a great pattern. The shaping is awesome. The thing for the color work is the color work instructions are wrong. Just the nature of crochet, your stitches kind of shift every round, especially when you're working in the round in a spiral. So it kind of got a little bit out of control. So if you want to make this pattern, just keep that in mind. I used the pattern as like a format to kind of guess where they wanted this color work section to be, like where they wanted the color work to fall. So it's not perfect, but you get the point of it. So I would really recommend charting it out for yourself, like looking at her picture and of her finished plushie and charting out the face yourself, and using that rather than her written instructions, because our written instructions for color work are hard enough to follow as it is, but also it's just a little bit off, like by a stitch, but then that stitch grows how much it's off by. But the rest of it is awesome because look at the shaping, look how perfect this all is. And then I have this tail, no, not this tail, the legs all crocheted up. I just have to sew them on and figure out what I'm going to do for the face, because I bought felt, but it's not going to work, the felt, so I have to come up with another plan. But really love this, and super quick. So I actually have a amigurumi project that has not been touched from one of my amigurumi books. I don't know why I have not touched it. I want to touch it, I want to work it up, but it just has not been happening. But this did happen, so yeah, I don't know. I have big amigurumi plans all the time, but I always end up making these Pokemon. So this is just in a little bag waiting to be sewn up. And then, like I said, I have another amigurumi project done, but it's very tiny and it has to be sewn up so that you can really see it. But yeah, so now we're officially into works in progress. I have this whole basket here of works in progress. It's kind of a bit of a mess, so let's see if I can make sense of this. So one is, actually, you know what, we'll talk about the sweater first. I have not actually cast it on yet, but I'm going to be making a circular yoke sweater completely from scratch. I have the pattern all written out for myself out of this Yarn Bee Must Be Merino in this blue colorway. I don't know if I have the tag. I do. It is blue teal, Must Be Merino Aran. And I'm going to be knitting it on a 9. I made a bit of a swatch to decide if I wanted a 9 or 10. My gauge is the same, but you see the 9 is just a bit tighter, whereas the 10 is so much looser. Nice little swatch in the round. I have to frog that. Let me know when I don't make big swatches because I am terrified of running out of yarn and needing every little bit of yarn. Now, a swatch does not take a lot of yarn, but there is this part of me that's like, what if I'm at the end of the second sleeve and I need this much yarn, and that this much yarn is in my swatch that I swatched in the round and cut so it's unusable. It's a dark idea, isn't it? So that's why I always frog my swatches. That's why I make the cheater swatch, where it's very small, just enough to take gauge, and then I frog it. And then I wonder why my gauge is off. So again, I'm my own worst enemy. But this is going to get cast on like basically right after this podcast. Because I'm so excited to have another sweater. Sorry, I had to move my notions case. And it'll be so much fun to work on. I'm actually going to pull the needles out of this so that I can put these away. So my 40-inch cord. Okay, and that's going to hop on the needles. It's going to be awesome. I'm so excited. I think for the, I think I'm just going to do like a rolled neckline, and have like on the cuffs and the hem a sort of like very simple like diamond pattern. That's what I'm thinking. So just be very simple and blue, and yeah, that's the idea so far. So, and then this work in progress I started literally last night, the evening, and crocheted up a whole skein of yarn. So I want to make I want to make more shawls, and I'm actually going to talk about that in a future video, about like what I want to do in the new year with my crafting. And kind of not really new year crafting resolutions, just ideas that I have that I really want to put into practice in the new year. So I want to make more shawls, and this is my first shawl. I honestly had a different idea for it, but it just didn't work out with this yarn. It wasn't looking the way I wanted it to, so I just decided to do a simple triangle. And this shawl shape is actually one of the shawl shapes in my 4 crochet shawl constructions, which you can find here on YouTube and on Ravelry. So just a whole skein of yarn. This is 1 skein of yarn. I think it was 150 grams, less than maybe. It's I Love This Yarn in the Pinky Toes colorway, metallic, and 142 grams. A little less than 142 grams. So I have 1 more skein that I'm going to use, and then I think it's just plain half double crochet on a 6mm hook. But then I think I'm going to look at my pattern books for like a really pretty and maybe even intricate crochet border, so that this will just be a plain shawl, but it'll have a really nice fancy strip, and it'll all be in this color. Hopefully the yarn will play along with that plan. Can you see that sparkle? I don't know if you can. Maybe you can. It's kind of hard to see. But yeah, I worked on this all yesterday evening just because I really need something plain to work on. I didn't feel like picking up. I didn't want to cast on the sweater because I had to work out. I did do the swatch and the math. And then I did also cast on 2 socks yesterday. 2 socks. One is actually a half finished object, and it is out of Patton's Croy in the saltwater colorway. Just this very simple, like one of their solid colors, which usually they don't have. But honestly, Patton's Croy, I have a bit of Patton Croy in my stash. It's some of them are thicker than others, it seems like, because some of them are just so tight, and just my usual sock gauge, so tight to work with, and it makes a very stiff dense sock, but it wears really well. So this is just a plain vanilla sock. Again, my shortcut heel sock recipe. I did my garter stitch shortcut heel with this one, and 1 sock done, and I did cast on the second. I have like half a needle for the cuff to be done, and then it's on to the foot, the leg, not the foot. But it's really tight, and I feel like some Patton's Croyers are thicker than others, if that makes sense. I know they're already more of a sport weight yarn, but it's just the gauge is really tight, and it's not very enjoyable for me. As it is, I typically lean toward looser gauge things. Like even my sock, all my socks, I ended up on a 2.75mm needle, which I know is big for a lot of people. A lot of people stick to the 0s or 1s and 1.5. Mine's a 2.5, or even bigger, 2.5. I think it's 2.5, yeah. And it's just really tight, and it's not very fun. But I did 1 sock, so I'm going to push through to the other, and it is just a vanilla sock, and once I get going, it's not as bad, but it just makes really tight fabric. Like, I'm pulling as hard as I can. And I know you want a dense fabric for your socks, but it's just a lot tighter than I typically go for. So that's 1 project cast on, and then the other, I just did the cuff for the first and final. Well, it's the first one in the collection, but it's the final sample I'm knitting of my garter stitch sock collection. I'm going to be making my skipping stone pattern for a new sample. Got like a blip in the yarn where it's like all tight there. I don't know. This is just Knit Pictorial Tonal in the Frozen Tonal colorway. It's all my projects that I've been working on. I'm really excited and feeling really motivated to finish things. It's a really nice feeling after so long feeling like I wasn't making a lot of progress on anything. So in the news of pattern news, I will be updating my Delightful Knit Sock collection very soon. I'm going to be asking for testers for my toe up Delightful Knit Sock collection, all the patterns done toe up. I'm going to be doing that very soon. I just needed to put that on the back burner to focus on the final push of getting through school. So that's what needed to happen, but I really want to get that pattern out. I don't know when I'm going to ask for testers, because like we are in the holidays and it feels kind of weird to like I don't want to ask for testers when they're obviously like getting things, like focusing on Christmas and holiday season and, you know, making gifts if they are. On the other hand, the Delightful Knit Sock collection works up really fast and would be good gifts because they work up so fast. DK weight socks fly off your needles, but I think it's probably best if I wait and put that toward the new year. So or at least after, like, I don't know. It's all little things like that that I'm just thinking of, but I really do want to get that pattern out because I look at my samples for that collection and I'm just so in love with the new samples, and I'm so in love with the pattern layout. Yeah, just a nice update to refresh it and make it easier to follow, because I like to think I've improved in my, you know, pattern writing and everything since first putting out that pattern. So yeah, that's just all things that are happening very soon. You can see the Delightful Knit Sock collection in my Ravelry shop. It's still up there, and if you do purchase it now, you will get the update automatically when I do update it. So yeah, just all the little things, but that's something I'm working on. So patterns, projects, all that good stuff. I hope you are also enjoying your crafting. If you could, take a moment and comment down below something you were working on. I would love to hear all about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Happy crafting!